We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for May 28th. I'm David Garner, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Case number 31709, continued. Case number 31713, continued. Case number 31716, continued. Case number 31717, dismissed. Case number 31627, continued. Case number 31723, continued. Case number 31724, continued. Case number 31726, continued. Case number 31730, continued. Case number 31731, continued. Case number 31734, continued. Case number 31735, continued. Case number 31743, continued. Case number 31744, continued. Case number 31748, dismissed. The administrative docket starts on page 6 with case number 31727 and goes through case number 31801 on the supplement. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases in the administrative docket will be placed on the Oil and Gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear on one of the matters in the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into the hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We'll begin with moving to case number 31708, application of Kraken Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Blue Ridge and/or Green Lake Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 38-40 acre spacing unit described as sections 21, 22, 27, 28, 33, and 34, Township 159 North, Range 100 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Kraken Operating LLC. I have three witnesses appearing telephonically: Justin Payne, Kimberly Glorson, and Josh Lochner. And I believe they're all on the line right now.
Mr. Payne.
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Justin, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Justin Payne, Justin, Payne, P-E-Y-N-E. I'm employed by Kraken Operating. Our address is 945 Bunker Hill Road, Suite 1200, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Justin, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
I would move the testimony of Mr. Payne be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Wade, I don't believe he told us what capacity he's employed as.
Oh, sorry. What's your position with Kraken, Justin?
I'm a landman.
Landman? Okay. Let's start with Exhibit L1. Can you identify the area of the proposed spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit L1 is the regional locator map showing the Blue Ridge, Green Lake, Bakken Pool, and Williams County, North Dakota. In blue to the south there is the Blue Ridge Bakken Pool, as well as to the north is Green Lake.
Okay. And then let's move on to L2. Can you identify the spacing unit you're requesting and your working interest in that proposed spacing unit?
Sure. The proposed spacing unit is highlighted in yellow, encompassing sections 21, 22, 28, 27, 33, and 34 in 159 North, 100 West, Williams County, North Dakota. Below that is a working interest summary showing sections 16 and 21 with brackets with a 98.99% working interest, 28 and 33 with a 96.71% working interest, section 2 with a 1.56% working interest, and sections 27 and 34 with a 90% working interest. Within the proposed 38-40 acre spacing unit, Kraken holds 79.01% working interest. with the others holding the other 20.98%.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Payne. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Justin, are sections 3, 4, 9, 10, 15, 16, 21, and 22 currently a lease line 5120?
Yes, sir. I believe he is spacing for 3.
You're cutting out, Justin. Can you repeat that?
Yes, I do believe that sections 3, 4, 9, 10, 15, and 16 currently do have a lease line spacing order in place. 21 and 22.
So that's a lease line 5120?
Yes, sir.
So how is this going to work with the bottom two sections of that 5120 overlapping with the north two sections of your 3840?
So today we're proposing just the lease line for the 6 sections to the south. What we have been doing is to do an acreage trade for section 16 in hopes for that to be developed as a 3 mile to the north, as well as a 3 mile to the lease line to the north that encompasses 3, 4, 9, 10, 15, and 16 only.
So it's my understanding Phoenix applied for and received that lease line 5120, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So again, how is the section line between 21 and 22? It's going to have a 4-mile well and a 3-mile well across those sections?
We were seeking relief today to vacate that 4-mile lease line spacing unit in hopes to approve this 3-mile spacing unit, as well as to kind of have with HUD and our correlation with them and cooperation to kind of do a mirror image 3 miles to the north with the lease line 2 in that quarter as well, and mirror image that to the south as well.
So have you talked to Phoenix about this?
No, we have not.
So the commission is just supposed to vacate their spacing unit without them being involved?
We were hoping that this hearing, if they had any protests or any opposition, that would be heard by the commission here.
Isn't that something you and Phoenix should work out before you bring this to the commission?
I believe that we made conversations about that in the previous. I don't think that we've had any traction with that. So today we're bringing it to the board in order to see if the board might be able to grant us the relief here.
Well, I don't think the commission is going to make a decision without input from Phoenix.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we were under the impression that if Phoenix had any opposition to this, then they would contact us or the board. Since then, we have not had any contact with them, proposing that they were against this spacing or this application.
So Wade, I think that the commission would want Kraken to reach out to Phoenix and see if they have opposition to this. And of course, if they do, we're probably going to have to hear it again.
We can do that, but I mean, you know, with all due respect, Mr. Bohr, was noticed, and Phoenix, you know, had the opportunity. You know, it's no secret that this case is on the docket, and if they were opposed, they had the opportunity now to, you know, come in and oppose it.
Did Kraken
And they
oppose Phoenix's 5120?
I don't recall. Justin, do you know, did you appear in the
No,
case? What?
we did oppose their 5120 at the time.
At the time you didn't.
No, sir.
So now you've put the commission in the position of trying to adjudicate between two different parties, and both parties aren't here. So with that being said, we will ask that you reach out to Phoenix and get their input, and if they have opposition, we're probably hearing it again.
We can do that, but like that they had the opportunity to be here. but they're.
Well,
But they're not.
Kraken had the opportunity to protest their 5120 too.
Right, but that was like several months back and things can change, so.
Okay.
I think we can hurry through the remainder of the testimony. Thank you.
Do you want to continue with the witnesses? Okay. Okay.
Yep.
What's the last name, Ms.
I believe it's Glorson,
Ms. Glorson?
not certain.
It's Glorson.
Glorson, okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Kimberly, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Kimberly Glerson, Kimberly Glerson, Glersen. I am currently employed by Kraken Resources LLC as a senior exploration geologist, and I currently have 11 years experience of global industry in both upstream oil and gas, working conventional and unconventional projects through various asset life cycles from exploration to late-stage production. I've been with Kraken for 3 years, and I serve as the primary exploration geologist for acquisition.
Okay. And Kimberly, you haven't previously testified before the commission, though, correct?
Not that I believe on
Okay.
there. Might have been a while back, but I am currently serving as the backup operations geologist for Brian Lucero, who is usually the primary point of contact, but he is currently in the office.
Yep, that's fine. And are you familiar then, Kimberly, with the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And Mr. Examiner, based on Ms. Glerson's experience and education that she referenced, as well as her knowledge of the geology, I'd move that her testimony be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay. And Kimberly, let's look at G1. Can you describe the structure underlying this proposed spacing unit?
Yes, absolutely. Currently what we see right here in Exhibit G1 is a depth structure map of the top middle Bakken in sub-D true vertical depth. The red box is highlighting the Blue Ridge and Green Lake Bakken pool that we're going to be discussing today. The pink arrow that is pointing to the green dot on the map, currently located in section 33, is our main type log for the unit that we'll be discussing later. Now, the structure map for the top middle Bakken ranges within this interval from around 7,300 TBD sub-C to around a depth of 7,450 TBD sub-C. The contour intervals that you see described are 50-foot contour intervals.
Okay. Let's move on to the ISOPAC map, G2. Can you take us through that map?
Absolutely. So in Exhibit G2, what you are seeing described is an ISOPAC map of the Middle Bakken, or the gross Middle Bakken interval. Within the red highlighted box of the sections that we're going to be discussing, for the Blue Ridge and Green Lake Bakken pool, the estimated Middle Bakken ISOPAC or thickness is estimated to be between 49 and 48 feet thick. The contour intervals within this grid that you see described or displayed here are within half-foot intervals. So the bold lines are going to be representative of our single foot increments, and then the narrow lines are going to be within our half-foot increments there. As we go from south to north, our Middle Bakken is expected to slightly increase to 49 feet from around, roughly 48 feet. So it should be relatively isopacic throughout that entire unit that is being highlighted.
Okay. And then let's look at G3. Can you tell us what we're looking at on your type log?
Yes, absolutely. All right, so in Exhibit G3 is our main type log for this entire interval that we have described in the previous two exhibits. And that is also highlighted by the pink arrow within Exhibit G1 and Exhibit G2. With our type log, we have three different log intervals that we are going to be using. The first one, the furthest to the left, is going to be our gamma ray log. The second log that we see are going to be our resistivity, with the red or pink line indicating our shallow resistivity, and the blue or slightly purplish line indicating our deep resistivity. The log that's further to the left are going to be our density logs. Now, where we usually make our top picks are indicative of different log characters, and these are all highlighted pretty explicitly between the gamma ray, resistivity, and our density log. Our upper Bakken shale picks, which you can see labeled off to the far right, is usually picked when we start to see a spike in our gamma ray log, and also a spike within our resistivities, and a relative low within our density log. The top middle Bakken, which is going to be the top of the target for this area in terms of where we are going to drill, is where we see excuse me, a relative decrease in our gamma ray log, a decrease within our resistivity logs, both deep and shallow, and then also a slight increase within our density log. Now, the entirety of our middle Bakken interval is going to terminate or end at the lower Bakken shale, where, similar to the upper Bakken shale, we see an increase in our gamma ray log, an increase in both of our resistivity logs, both shallow and deep, and a decrease within our density log. The end, or the depth of our lower Bakken shale, or termination, is going to be indicated by the 3/4 marker that we see here. And similar to the middle Bakken target interval, we are going to see I'll cut it off really quickly. And decrease within our gamma ray log.
Okay. I have no further questions. That offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted.
Okay.
Any questions from the staff? Mr. Lochner,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Sure do.
Josh, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Joshua Lochner. I'm employed by Kraken Operating as a reservoir engineer. Our business address is 945 Bunker Hill, Suite 1200, Houston, Texas 77024.
And Josh, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lochner be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Josh, let's start with E1. Can you describe how you would propose to develop the spacing unit?
Exhibit E1 is the proposed development diagram for the proposed 3840 spacing unit. The space well in this exhibit is shown in the green dashed line. Within the blue box, which is the larger spacing unit, 3840 acres, the gray dashed lines indicate wells that have been previously spaced or approved by the commission. The expected spud date for this well would be December of this year to January of next year.
Let's look on E2 then. Can you describe how you would drill and complete the well?
Exhibit E2 is the 15,000-foot lateral wellbore schematic showing the four-stream casing design with the conductor, surface, and intermediate casings, as well as the production liner, with the completion methodology of plug and perf with 167 stages.
Okay. And then moving on to E3, can you summarize the reservoir data for us?
So E3 is the reservoir data around the proposed spacing unit, showing the thickness of 35 feet, the pressure 5,800 psi, and with oil in place, 6 million barrels, 6 MMBO per section, and a recovery factor of 3 to 4%. We expect an EUR for this well to be about 535,000 barrels of oil. For the GOR, we expect it to start at 700 and then rise gradually to 1,500 MCF per barrel over the first year and a half production.
Okay. Then moving on to E4, can you take us through the economics for the well?
E4 is a single well economics for the 3840 spacing unit, in which we try to put one lease line well and with an initial investment of $10.8 million, and with the previously stated EUR of 535,000 oil. We expect a rate of return of 24.6% and a net present value of just over $2.5 million. This is assuming 100% working interest. The payout would be roughly 4.5 years for this well.
And Josh, if the commission were to approve the overlapping spacing for the lease line well, would that prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
I think it would.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Josh, on E1, are all of these wells planned to be drilled at the same time and from the same pad?
We plan to drill the eastern three from a single pad, and then the western two, along with an additional well outside of the spacing unit from a separate pad, and most likely drilling the eastern wells prior to the western.
And those pads, I guess based on your comment, are they in the southern part of the unit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Josh, are you gonna use an existing pad to drill these eastern wells?
No, we will be building a new pad.
And that is in the southeast of 33?
33.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the 34.
And I have a question for Josh, can answer it if he likes, or Justin, on sections 27, 28, 33, and 34 are currently at lease line 2560. Do you want that spacing unit terminated?
That would be the idea, to vacate the two spacing units of the 4 mile and the 2 mile basis and respace it as a stacked 3 mile or 3840 basis.
Okay, thank you.
One follow-up question. Do you plan to drill this well directly down the section line or offset it at all?
It would be slightly off in order to avoid section 22 that cannot be.
Josh, you cut out. You're gonna have to repeat that.
We plan to drill generally on the line, but slightly to the west in order to avoid some minerals that cannot be penetrated in section 22.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our hearing for case number 31708. Case number 31709, application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Manitou Bakken Pool, Montreal County, North Dakota, to 1, establish an overlapping 2560 acre space unit described as sections 4, 9, 16, and 21, Township 155 North, Range 94 West, and authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. 2, establish an overlapping 5120 acre space unit described as sections 4, 5, 8, 9, 16, 17, 20, and 21, Township 155 North, Range 94 West, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit. Or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case has been continued to our June hearings. Concludes our hearing for case number 31709. Case number 31710, application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Tioga Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 5, 8, 17, and 20, Township 157 North, Range 94 West, Montreal County, North Dakota, and authorize 2 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC. I'll have 3 witnesses, telephonic in this case, Derek Abrahamson, Othman El Halou, and Aisha Keshemir, and I need to call them. Hey Derek, can you hear me? Y'all there? Yep. All right. All right, we got him on the line.
Mr. Abramson? You solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do.
Derek, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Derek Hampton, I'm a land negotiator for Hess Corporation, and the business address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Derek, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Abrahamson be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay, Derek, let's start with exhibit number 1. Can you identify the spacing unit that you're requesting?
Exhibit 1 is a location map showing Township 157 North, Range 94 West in Montreal County. The requested 2560 is in green, and the two existing Hess-operated DSUs are in blue.
Okay. Let's look at exhibit 2. Can you take us through your working interest in that spacing unit?
Yeah, sure. Exhibit 2 is a land plot showing the proposed 2560 DSU that we were requesting, containing sections 5, 8, 17, and 20. In blue is the 1280 Hess-operated Ian Loken DSU. Hess owns about 92%. And then in green is the Hess-operated Ian Charles Wood, with Hess owning 56%. And the combined Hess interest in the proposed 2560 is roughly 74%.
Okay. I have no further questions. I would offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. El Halou,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I swear.
Hoffman, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Osman Elhalu. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as an operations geologist. And the address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Hoffman, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, sir.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
They were.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. El Halou be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Hoffman, let's look at exhibit 3. Can you describe the structure underlying this proposed spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU outline in green with the existing wells marked. Top middle Bakken structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the southeast. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay. Let's move on to exhibit number 4, and can you take us through your cross-section?
Sure. Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphic cross-section that's flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Hoffman, out of curiosity, on your Exhibit 3, your structure map, why are some of
Yes, sir.
the contour labels upside down?
You know, I think that was a setting I missed on my part. Something I could look into.
Yeah, I was just curious. I don't know if I've noticed that before. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Ketchmere,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Aisha Kashmir, reservoir engineer employed by Hess Corporation. Business address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Aisha, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
I would move the testimony of Ms. Kashmir be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Aisha, let's look at your Exhibit 5. Can you describe for us how you would develop this proposed spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 8, 7, 8, 5, 8, 17, and 20. Sorry. The bold dashed line are the proposed wells and will be drilled in the middle box formation.
Okay. Let's move on to Exhibit 6. Can you take us through the reservoir data and the economics?
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single 4-mile lateral in Tioga Field. The expected EUR is around 840,000 standard barrels. Economics will run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% working interest. The expected NPV is around 5.4 million with 42% rate of return.
Okay. And Aisha, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve this 2560 to allow for these 4-mile laterals, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Aisha, on your Exhibit 5, the outer dashed lines, are those the section lines or are those the setback?
Those are the section lines.
Those are the section lines? Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31710. Case number 31711, application of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Antelope Sanish Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 30 and 31, Township 153 North, Range 94 West, and sections 3 and 10, Township 152 North, Range 95 West, McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 2 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC. And Mr. Examiner, 3 witnesses appearing telephonically. Hoffman will testify on geology again, but we'll have John DeWitt on land, and then Taylor Goy, engineering.
Mr. DeWitt,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
John, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is John DeWitt. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a senior land negotiator with business address at 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And John, are you, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. DeWitt be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And then, John, let's look at exhibit number 1. Can I have you identify the proposed 2560?
Yes. Exhibit 1 is the location map depicting townships 15394 and 15295 in McKenzie County. The blue outlines represent the 2 existing 1280 stand-up DSUs, sections 30 and 31 of 15394 and sections 3 and 10 of 15295. Also to note, These two existing stand-up DSUs are slightly staggered as the section lines of the two townships do not perfectly line up. The green dash outline represents the requested overlapping 2560 stand-up DSU using sections 30 and 31 of 15394 and sections 3 and 10 of 15295. That's all I have on that.
Okay. Let's look at Exhibit 2 then. Can you take us through your working interest?
Yes, Exhibit 2 is the land plat showing the proposed 2560 spacing request in the black dash outline. In blue is the Hess-operated and Brenna DSU, whereas his working interest is 98.44% and the remaining owners with 1.56%. In green is the Hess-operated and Evanston DSU, whereas his working interest is 54.30 and the remaining owners with 45.7%. The combined working interest of the proposed A and Melby 15295 1030 DSU will be Hess with 75.36% and the remaining owners with 24.64%. And that's all I have.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
John, do you know what the offset is across that township line?
Yes, it's 1,280 feet, about.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Your next witness is Stone Row.
Okay. Othman, let's look at Exhibit number 3. Can you describe the structure underlying this spacing unit?
Yes, sir. So Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU outline in dash green with the existing wells marked. The top middle block and structure map is presented dipping to the northeast off the crest of a localized anticline that's associated with the broader antelope structural trend. We have the 50-foot contour intervals marked. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay. Then let's take a look at Exhibit number 4. Can you walk us through your cross-section exhibit?
Sure. Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken showing the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Othman, on your Exhibit 3,
Yes, sir.
if my numbers are correct, there's 13 producing wells in 3 and 10 and 9 in 30 and 31. Is that correct?
Seven and 8 total. One is inactive in in 30 and 31, and then 14 existing. 2 are abandoned, plugged and abandoned in section 3 and 10.
So do you know why there's a discrepancy in the number of wells in 30 and 31 versus 3 and 10?
How let me count them again, but how many we're showing? Let me give you, I see 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. How many did each? I'm sorry. Can you remind me again how many you were counting from your end?
13 producing wells in 3 and 10 with 1 plugged and abandoned, so 14.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 producing wells in 30 and 31. And I mean, the numbers may not be exact. That's not that important, but do you know why there's more wells drilled in 3 and 10 than there is in 30 and 31?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why there's more in one versus the other. More on the planning side.
Yeah.
And development. Yeah. I can't speak to how they were developed.
So if you look at Exhibit 3, does the geology have any bearing on why there's more wells in 3 and 10 versus 30 and 31?
Okay. I don't think the geology here is really a factor. It's going to be a gradual up dip going from south to north, followed by the flattening and then a down dip. So maybe half a degree up. So I don't think that should be an issue compared to the rest of the Bakken.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Goy, or Ms. Goy.
Mr.
Mr. Goy,
Yes, hello.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Taylor, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Taylor Goy. I'm a reservoir engineer employed by Hess Corporation, and the business address is 1501 Kenny Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Taylor, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony Mr. Goy be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Taylor, let's look at your Exhibit 5. Can you describe for the commission how you would develop this spacing unit?
Yes, so Exhibit 5 shows proposed 2550 development for sections 310, 30, and 31. The highlighted dash green line shows the proposed 4-mile well to be drilled from the pad location denoted in blue.
Okay. Let's move on to Exhibit 6. Can you summarize the reservoir data and then take us through the economics?
Yes, so Exhibit 6 shows reservoir and economic summary for a single 4-mile Middle Bakken well in the Antelope Spanish Pool. Expected EUR is around 857,000 barrels with a 3.3% recovery factor, and economics are run at $62 per barrel WTI flat, and 100% working interest. Our expected MPV is $7.5 million with a rate of return of 60%.
Okay. And Taylor, in your opinion, if the commission approves this overlapping 2560 to allow for this development, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Taylor, in your Exhibit 5, do you know what the cumulative recovery is in 30 and 31?
Yes, the number we have is 4.2 million BOE.
And in 3 and 10?
3 and 10 is 4.15 million BOE.
Okay, thank you.
Tara, that surface location that's depicted on Exhibit 5, is that on the existing pad?
The pad will be slightly below the existing pad.
So it's going to be a new build or just expand upon the current one?
It'll be a new build.
What's your anticipated spud date?
Anticipated spud date is December 2026.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31711. Case number 31712, application of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Truax Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as Section 17, 20, 29, and 32, Township 154 North, Range 98 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC. Three witnesses appearing telephonically in this case. It'll be Othman and Taylor again, geology and engineering, but Levi Greenlee will testify on land.
Mr. Greenlee,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Levi, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yeah, my name is Levi Greenlee. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a senior land negotiator with the business address of 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Levi, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Greenlee be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Levi, let's look at exhibit number 1. Can you identify the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, Exhibit 1 is the location map of Township 154 North, Range 98 West, Williams County. In blue are the existing DSUs, 1280 DSUs, and in green is the requested overlapping 2560 stand-up DSU.
Okay, and let's move on to exhibit 2. Can you take us through your working interest?
Yes, Exhibit 2 is the land plat with the proposed 2560 spacing. In blue is the Hess-operated SD Gene and SD JCB mirrored DSU, where Hess owns a 92.7% working interest, the others with 7.3%. And in orange is the Hess-operated SD Ellingsburg DSU, where Hess owns an 89.65% working interest, others with 10.35%. And the combined working interest on the proposed 2560 is Hess with a 91.18% working interest and others with 8.82%.
Okay, I have no further questions that offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from staff? All right, I believe you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Levi, are sections 5, 8, 17, and 20 currently a stand-up 2560?
Yes, yeah, I believe they were both spaced 1280s initially, and then they were respaced to be a 2560 mirrored development later on in life.
And so the spacing unit is going to overlap that 2560, it appears?
Correct.
Do you know how many wells are drilled in 5 and 8?
Yeah, we were going to speak to this a little bit later with Taylor, but
Okay,
we'll definitely address it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, I believe your remaining two witnesses are both still under oath.
Yep, correct, thank you. Othman, let's look at exhibit 3. Can you describe the structure underlying this spacing unit?
Yes, sir. So the exhibit shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU outline in green with the existing wells marked. Top middle box and structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the south. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and then let's go ahead and move on to 4. Can you describe your cross-section for us?
Yeah, the stratigraphic cross-section is flattened on the top of the Bakken showing the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
I have no further questions that offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right. Taylor, let's look at Exhibit 5. How would you intend to develop this proposed 2560?
Yes, so Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development from Section 1720, 29, and 32. The highlighted dashed green line shows the proposed 4-mile well field from the pad location denoted in blue.
Okay. And then let's move on to Exhibit number 6, and I think this kind of addresses Mr. Bohr's question to Levi. Can you kind of walk us through this exhibit and tell us what this shows?
Absolutely. So again, Exhibit 6 shows, again, the proposed 2560 development for the sections 17, 20, 29, and 32, and the highlighted dash green shows the proposed 4-mile well. And then we have in here the solid black line to show an abandoned well in sections 17 and 20. Currently in sections 5 and 8, there is 9 producing wells. In sections 17 and 20, there is 8 producing wells, and that one well that's abandoned would have made 9.
Okay. And then let's move on to 7. Can you take us through the reservoir data and the economics?
Yes, so Exhibit 7 shows reservoir and economic summary for a single 4-mile Middle Bakken well in the Truax Bakken pool. Expected EUR is 850,000 barrels with 3.6% recovery factor. The economics were run at $62 per barrel, flat, and 100% working interest, and our expected NPV is $2.8 million with a 22% rate of return.
Okay. And Taylor, in your opinion, if this gets approved, would it prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Taylor, on Exhibit 6, you said there are 9 wells in 5 and 8?
Correct.
Are there 10 wells in there, but one is a 1280 well? Or is there a plugged well in there?
In sections 5 and 8,
Correct.
no, there's no well in 5 and 8. Or
Because I show 10 wells in 5 and 8, or 10 laterals in 5 and 8.
is it? I'm counting the non-leaf line wells for that.
I think I am too, but at this scale, I can let me blow it up for a second here. Yeah, there are 9 in there. I don't know where the 10th is coming from, but maybe it's one might be a sidetrack. So there's 9 wells in there. I assume one is a 1280 well.
Yeah, the H1.
Okay, and then in 17 and 20, there are 9 wells in there, but one is plugged, you said?
That's correct.
And one of those would be a 1280 well. So there's one difference on the 2560 between the north and south spacing unit.
That's correct.
North and south 1280s, I should say.
Yes.
Does this space unit have a requirement that the number of wells has to be equal in north and south? Do you know?
I'd have to review that. I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I didn't look that up. So the well you're proposing is gonna, in effect, be a replacement well for that well that's plugged in 17 and 20, the part that's in 17 and 20?
Yes, correct.
So why shouldn't that oil be shared on the 2560 between 5, 8, 17, and 20, rather than sharing with 17, 20, 29, and 32?
This is Levi Greenlee. Just the way that it will be calculated, we will be sharing that with the full 2560. It will be allocated to drill the well between the 4 sections as it is mirrored right now. There is not room to the north to drill a well there, which is why we're drilling it from the south, from sections 32 and 29.
But there is room to drill a 2-mile well there. Granted, it is a 2-mile well, isn't there not?
For which section specifically?
For 17 to 20 to replace that well that was plugged and fill in that area.
That would constitute a single well trip, which Taylor can speak to.
Yeah, and we would, I guess our location for that, we would need to build or figure out a new pad location for that, which I don't think would be feasible for us. And getting it from the south here is, I think, the best option for us.
Okay. Levi, can you elaborate a little bit on how you plan on distributing the oil from this well to the north 2560?
Yeah, so we will be allocating just like we would allocate any overlap issue in this situation. So the fact that you're going to take the 1280 acres that make up the 2560 as proposed will be just dispersed across the 2560 spacing, mirrored spacing. So they will be allocated proportionally to what their mirrored spacing issue is contributing to the new 2560 issue.
So in essence, 5 and 8 will share in this well, although it'll be diluted by 50%?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, thank you. I do have one more question, Taylor, on Exhibit 6. That red line to the south, I assume that's a lease line well?
That's correct.
So there'll be one more well drilled on that south 1280.
There will be 3 wells for the pad in total. It's the green dash line, the green line in the middle, and then the lease line in red.
Yeah, correct, but only one of those is on the 1280, right?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31712. At this time, we'll take a 10-minute break.
Hey, guys, can you just hang on the line? We're taking a 10-minute break.
Okay, we are back on the record. We'll resume with case number 31630. Application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Ray Bakken Pool, Williams County, North Dakota to, 1, establish an overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 1930 and 31, Township 157 North, Range 96 West, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. 2, establish an overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit described as sections 24, 25, and 36, Township 157 North, Range 97 West, and sections 1930 and 31, Township 157 North, Range 96 West, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit. Or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. And for this case, we're back to John DeWitt on land, and then Othman and Taylor, geology engineering.
And they're all stone road.
All right. John, you still there?
Here.
All right, let's look at your exhibit number 1 and describe or identify the proposed spacing units we're talking about.
Yes, for Exhibit 1, this is the location map depicting townships 157 north and ranges 96 and 97 west in Williams County. Blue outlines represent the 4 existing DSUs. 3 are 1280 stand-up DSUs, being sections 18 and 19, 24 and 25, and 30 and 31, and 1 640 DSU being section 36. The green dash outline represents the requested overlapping 1920 stand-up DSU, which includes sections 19, 30, and 31. And the red dash outline represents the requested overlapping 3840 DSU, which includes sections 19, 30, and 31 of 15796, and sections 24, 25, and 36 of 15797. Next exhibit, please.
All right, let's look at your exhibit 2. Take us through your working interest in the 1920.
Yes, Exhibit 2 is the land plat showing the proposed 1920 spacing request in the black dash outline. In green is the Hess-operated Go Helen DSU, where Hess's working interest is 80.85% and the remaining owners with 19.15%. In blue is the Hess-operated Go Solberg DSU, where Hess's working interest is 54.41% and the remaining owners with 45.59%. The combined working interest of the proposed Go Linseth 157.96-3119 DSU will be Hess with 63.21% and the remaining owners with 36.79%. Next exhibit, please.
All right, exhibit 3, let's go through the working interest in the 3840.
Exhibit 3 is the land plat showing the proposed 3840 spacing request in the black dash outline. In the green is the Hess-operated Go Helen DSU, where Hess's working interest is 80.85% and the remaining owners with 19.15%. In blue is the Hess-operated Go Solberg DSU, where Hess's working interest is 54.41% and the remaining owners with 45.59%. In orange is the Hess-operated Walden W DSU, where Hess's working interest is 94% and the remaining owners with 6%. In yellow is the Hess-operated Go Anderson DSU, where Hess's working interest is 87.5% and the remaining owners with 12.5%. The combined working interest of the proposed Go Linseth LW 157.96-3119 DSU will be Hess with 77.54% and the remaining owners with 22.46%. And that's all I have.
No further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Who we got here? John,
Yes, sir.
on exhibit, we'll just take exhibit 1. 6, 7, and 18 are a 1920 that's been applied for, is that correct?
Correct. And Taylor will, we have a slide on this later on in the exhibit that shows the full development of both 31630 and 31631.
And then sections 13, 24, 25, and 36 are stand-up 2560?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Othman, let's look at exhibit number 4. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units?
Yes, sir. Exhibit 4 shows the location location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 1920 in green and 3840 in red. At the top middle Bakken structure map, it's presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the west. And the line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 5.
Okay, and let's look at Exhibit 5, that cross-section.
Exhibit 5 is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken showing that targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right, Taylor, let's look at Exhibit 6. How would you intend to develop the 1920?
Yes, so Exhibit 6 shows the proposed 1920 development sections 1930 and 31. The highlighted dash green line shows the proposed 3-mile well to be drilled from the pad location denoted in blue.
Okay. And then Exhibit 7, the 3840 for the lease line, how would that get developed?
Yep, and Exhibit 7 shows the proposed 3840 development sections 19, 24, 25, 30, 31, and 36. The highlighted dash green line shows the proposed 3-mile lease line well to be drilled from the pad location denoted in blue.
Okay. And then moving on to Exhibit 8, can you walk us through the reservoir data and then the economics for the wells?
Yes, so Exhibit 8 shows reservoir and economic summary for a single 3-mile middle Bakken well in the Raybox pool. That EUR is around 607,000 barrels with a 2.1% recovery factor and 1% for the lease line. Economics will run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% working interest. The expected MPV is $6.3 million with a rate of return of 66%.
Okay. And then let's move on to Exhibit number 9. That just kind of shows the full development once we address these proposed spacing units as well as the spacing units in the next case.
Yeah, so Exhibit 9 shows the overview of the development plan. Planned well developments are denoted in the green dash line, and the current case is shown in the bottom half of the visual, and the top half will be reviewed with the case 31631.
Okay. And Taylor, in your opinion then, if this spacing is approved for the development that you've described, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Will these wells be batch drilled?
I don't have that answer right now. So we batch drilled it time the batch manner.
Taylor, can you repeat that? You kind of cut out a little bit.
Yep, sorry. I'm not sure if it will be drilled in like the batch manner, but they will all be drilled at the same time. So one after the next or the batch. But I would have to double check on that, sorry.
And then the pad location in section 31, is that going to be from an existing pad or will that be new?
It will be a new pad, and so that's kind of our estimate. It will actually be a little bit below that, the DS 31, or the section 31.
Thank you.
Taylor, we've had a couple of cases now where you say you're gonna build a new pad below the existing pad. Is that something Hess is migrating towards, or why wouldn't you expand an existing pad?
For that, I specifically can't speak to that on this. I think that would be for more on our service team and facilities team.
Okay, does John want to answer that question?
Sure. Yes, I can't speak to that either, but I will say that our surface team does everything possible to minimize the footprint on the surface. And when we can expand a pad and it makes sense, then we would do that. But there are certain circumstances, topography, other issues that might dictate that we just have a separate pad to the south.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31630. Case number 31631, application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Ray Bakken Pool, Williams County, North Dakota to 1, establish an overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 6, 7, and 18, Township 157 North, Range 96 West, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit. 2, establish 2 overlapping 38, 40 acre spacing units described as sections 1, 12, and 13, Township 157 North, Range 97 West, and sections 6, 7, and 18, Township 157 North, Range 96 West, and sections 5, 6, 7, 8, 17, and 18, Township 157 North, Range 96 West, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on each such unit, or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. And Mr. Examiner, this is essentially a companion case to the previous, just moving to the north for another 1920 and 3840s, and it'll be the same 3 witnesses.
They're still under oath.
All right, John, let's look at exhibit number 1, and if you can identify the 3 proposed spacing units for us.
Yes, Exhibit 1 is the location map depicting townships 157 North and ranges 96 and 97 West in Williams County. The blue outlines represent the 6 existing DSUs, 5 are 1280 stand-up, being sections 1 and 12, 6 and 7, 5 and 8, 17 and 20, and 18 and 19, and 1 640 DSU being section 13. The green dash outline represents the requested overlapping 1920 stand-up DSU, which includes sections 6, 7, and 18. And the 2 red dash outlines represent the 2 requested overlapping 3840 DSUs, one being sections 5, 6, 7, 8, 17, and 18 of 15796, and the other being sections 1, 12, and 13 of 15797, and 6, 7, and 18 of 15796. Next exhibit, please.
Okay, looking at exhibit 2, can you take us through your working interest in the 1920?
Yes, Exhibit 2 is a land plat showing the proposed 1920 spacing request in the black dash outline. In blue is the Hess-operated Barman DSU, where Hess' working interest is 45.18% and the remaining owners with 54.82%. In green is the Hess-operated Go Helen DSU, where Hess' working interest is 80.85% and the remaining owners with 19.15%. And the combined ownership working interest of the proposed Go Garrison 15796 0618 DSU will be Hess with 57.10% and the remaining owners with 42.90%. Next exhibit, please.
All right, let's look at exhibit 3 then, and you take us through your working interest in that 3840.
Yep, Exhibit 3 is the land plat showing the proposed 3840 spacing request in the black dash outline. In yellow is the Hess-operated Go Purdue DSU, where Hess' working interest is 42.38% and the remaining owners with 57.62%. In blue is the Hess-operated Barman DSU, where our working interest is 45.18 and the remaining owners with 54.82. In orange is the Hess-operated Go Ron Anderson DSU, where Hess' working interest is 71.16% and the remaining owners with 28.84%. In green is the Hess-operated Go Helen DSU, where our working interest is 80.85% and the remaining owners with 19.15%. The combined working interest of the proposed Go Garrison LW 15796 0618 DSU will be Hess with 54.53% and the remaining owners with 45.47%.
Okay. And exhibit 4, shifting to the east, take us through your working interest in that 3840.
Yes, Exhibit 4 is the land plat showing the proposed 3840 spacing request on black dash outline. In blue is the Hess-operated DSU, where our working interest is 45.18% and the remaining owners with 54.82%. In yellow is the Hess-operated Go Cupper DSU, where Hess's working interest is 39.71%, and the remaining owners with 60.29%. In green is the Hess operated Go Helen DSU, where Hess's working interest is 80.85%, and the remaining owners with 19.15%. In orange is the Hess operated Tong Trust DSU, where our working interest is 62.30%, and the remaining owners with 37.70%. The combined working interest of the proposed Go Garrison LE 15796 0618 TSU will be Hess with 52.15%, and the remaining owners with 47.85%. That's all I have.
I have no further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
John, sections 1, 12, 6, and 7 are currently at lease line 2560, is that correct?
That is correct, the Go Tong.
And you want that spacing unit terminated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
All right, Austin, let's look at Exhibit 5. Can you describe the structure underlying these spacing units?
Yes, sir. Exhibit 5 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue, and the requested 1920 DSU outline in green, and the requested 3840 DSU outline in red. With the existing walls marked, top middle Bakken structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the west. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section. In the next exhibit.
Okay, let's go through your cross-section, Exhibit 6.
Exhibit 6 is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
Taylor, let's look at Exhibit number 7. How would you propose to develop the 1920?
Yeah, so Exhibit 7 shows proposed 1920 development sections 6, 7, and 18. The highlighted dashed green line shows proposed 3-mile wells to be drilled from the pad locations noted in blue.
Okay, and then moving to Exhibit 8, the 3840 for that western lease line well.
Yes, so Exhibit 8 shows the proposed 3840 development for sections 1, 6, 7, 12, 13, and 18, and the highlighted dashed green line shows the proposed 3-mile western lease line well to be drilled pad locations denoted in blue at the top of the visual.
Okay, and then Exhibit number 9, and moving to the east, how would you develop that 3840?
Yep, and Exhibit 9 shows the proposed 3840 development for sections 5, 6, 7, 8, 17, and 18. The highlighted dash green line shows the proposed 3-mile eastern lease line well to be drilled from the locations noted at blue at the bottom of the visual.
Okay, let's move on to Exhibit 10. Can you take us through the reservoir data and then the economics for the proposed wells?
Yep, so Exhibit 10 shows reservoir and economic summary for a single 3-mile middle Bakken well in the Ray Bakken pool. The expected EUR is around 7,000 barrels with a 2.1% recovery factor and a 1% for the lease line well, and the economics will run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% working interest, and the expected NPV is $6.3 million with a rate of return of 66%.
Okay, and then just briefly take us through Exhibit 11.
Yeah, so Exhibit 11 shows the overview of the development plan. The planned well developments are denoted in the green dashed lines. The current case is shown on the top half of the visual, and the bottom half was reviewed with case 31630.
And Taylor, in your opinion, would establishment of the 1920 and these two 3840s, would that prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31631. Case number 31713, application of Devon Energy Williston LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Cyberston and/or Tobacco Garden Bakken pools to establish two overlapping 25 60-acre spacing units described as sections 1, 2, 11, and 12, and sections 2, 3, 10, and 11, Township 150 North, Range 99 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on each such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case has been continued to our June hearings. That concludes our hearing for case number 31713. Case number 31714, application of Petrohunt LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Little Knife Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 25 60-acre spacing unit described as sections 29, 30, 31, and 32, Township 144 North, Range 97 West, Dunn County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled in such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Petrohunt LLC. And Mr. Examiner, I'll have three witnesses testifying in this case and the next case. Mike Dewald will testify on land. He's present with us. And then I need to call Dutch Cruz and Derek Axelson for geology and engineering.
Mr. DeWall, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Ma'am, just
Go ahead, yeah, sure.
Dutch, Derek, you guys both there? All right, just hang on. We'll go through Mike's testimony first.
Okay.
All right. Mike, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Mike Dewald, senior landman with Petrohunt. Address is P.O. Box 935, Bismarck, North Dakota 58502.
And Mike, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes,
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
I am.
Okay. Let's look at your exhibit number 1, and can I have you identify for us the spacing unit and your working interest?
Yep, Exhibit 1 is the land plat. It depicts sections 29, 30, 31, and 32 with yellow highlight of where Petrohunt's leasehold is at. And Petrohunt's leasehold in this proposed 2560 is roughly 85%.
Okay. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Dewald. I'd offer exhibit number 1.
Exhibit is admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Cruz,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Dutch, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Dutch Cruz. I'm employed by Petrohunt LLC as a geologist, and my business address is 600 17th Street, Suite 2550 South, Denver, Colorado 80202.
And Dutch, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Cruz be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Dutch, let's look at your exhibit 2. Can you describe the structure underlying this proposed spacing unit?
Yes, the structure depicted here is the top Bakken with contour intervals of 10 feet, showing a slight dip to the northwest. The spacing unit in question is the red box there with a proposed well in dashed black. Offset wells in the area are depicted in that brown color for existing Bakken wells, and a few of the purple color is existing Three Forks wells.
Sure. And while we're here, Dutch, you've got that proposed well bore. Can you elaborate a little bit for us how you intend to develop the spacing unit?
Yes, I think we would drill this overlapping spacing unit, just drill a 2-mile lease line well there. We have some other in-unit wells proposed in this area. I'm not sure at the moment whether we drill them all as batch or do a separate pad here. These are still kind of in the planning stages, so some of that is still to be determined.
Okay. Let's move on then. Can you just run us through your type log on Exhibit 3?
Yeah, so quickly on referring back to Exhibit 2, the type log is highlighted there in Section 25, kind of to the east of the proposed, or the drilling unit we're discussing here. But my Exhibit 3 is the type log for that LOH 2-25-1B well. We got a porosity log suite on the left and a resistivity log suite on the right, showing just kind of your typical Bakken pool there with the lower portion of the lodged pool, the upper Bakken shale, the middle Bakken, the lower Bakken shale, and the upper portion of the Three Forks depicted there in the log curves. We'll point out Derek's going to discuss some economics and stuff he did off this well, so kind of the most important thing to note is just the middle Bakken interval there is around 22 feet thick, and it's your typical dolomitic sandstone.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer Exhibits 2 and 3 at this time.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
I have one request. Could you put the cross-section on your structure map and submit that as a supplement?
Oh, sorry, this is, these logs are from that one well that is highlighted in.
They're just from one well?
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have the resistivity logs on the right and the porosity logs on the left, both with gamma curves.
And that type log
Yep.
location is identified.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Excuse me, Dutch, the target here is the Middle Bakken,
Correct, yes.
and where's your proposed surface location?
Likely to the south end of that unit, although there's
I can,
some proposed wells.
Dutch, I can take that one.
Okay.
That's gonna go in the southwest corner of section 32.
So in the southwest of 32?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Axelson,
Yep.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter, which true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Derek, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. Derek Axelson. I'm employed by Petron LLC as a reservoir engineer, and our address is 2101 Cedar Springs Road, Suite 600, Dallas, Texas, 75201.
And Derek, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Axelson be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Derek, let's start with Exhibit 4. Can you summarize the reservoir data for us?
Sure. So the Exhibit 4, as Dutch mentioned, the lithology for the Middle Bakken, the dolomitic siltstone. Bottom hole temperature here is 285 degrees Fahrenheit with an oil gravity of 40 degrees API. The solution gas oil ratio is 860 scuffs per barrel. And as we've discussed, the spacing unit here is 2560 acres. And as Dutch mentioned, the Middle Bakken thickness here, based on the LOH well log to the west there, is 22 feet thick with an average porosity of about 6.5%. The average water saturation, based on the resistivity logs for the Middle Bakken, is approximately 32%. And from the standing correlation, we have a formation volume factor of 1.61 reservoir barrels per stock tank barrels. And so all of that together, volumetrically, we have just a hair under 12 million stock tank barrels for an estimated original oil in place, and we estimate the oil recovery for this well to be 400,000 stock tank barrels. That results in an estimated recovery per well of 3.3%.
Okay. Let's go on to exhibit number 5. Can you take us through the economics?
Sure. So we estimate that it will have this well have an initial production rate of 733 barrels of oil per day, with a similar GOR, as mentioned, of 860 scuffs per barrel, with a 400,000 barrels of oil EUR. Our projected well costs are just a hair over $10 million. We estimate the LOE for this well to be $15,800 per month, with an estimated royalty burden of 16%. For the economics, we used a flat $62 per barrel oil price, with $3.40 for the gas price. So we anticipate a payout time of 3.6 years with an undiscounted return on investment of 1.52 and a rate of return of 16.05%.
Okay. And Derek, in your opinion, would establishment of the 2560 to allow for that lease line well prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 4, 5, and the gas capture plan affidavit number 6.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Concludes our hearing for case number 31714. Case number 31715, application of Petrohunt LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Crooked Creek Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, Township 143 North, Range 97 West, Dunn County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Petrohunt LLC, and it'll be same 3 witnesses testifying in this case.
And they're still under oath.
All right. Mike, let's look at exhibit number 1. Can you identify the spacing unit and your working interest?
Yes, Exhibit 1 is the land plat for this case, depicting sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, with Petrohunt's leasehold highlighted in yellow on those tracks. And Petrohunt's working interest in this proposed 2560 is just over 50%.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibit number 1.
Exhibit is admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Where will the pad location be for this well?
We are looking to put this on the same pad in the southwest corner of section 32 that we discussed in the previous case.
Thank you.
You can proceed.
All right, Dutch, let's look at exhibit 2. Can you start by describing the geology underlying the proposed spacing unit?
Yes. So this spacing unit is directly to the south of the case we previously discussed. Similar Bakken structure here, dipping to the northwest. In the image, we have top Bakken structure contours of 10 feet. Again, offset wells are depicted in brown and purplish color in the proposed well in dashed black there. And then in my next exhibit, I will be showing a different type log than the last one. So this type log is located to the southeast of the drilling unit.
Sure.
So I just wanted to point that out.
Sure.
But it will be one well.
Yep. Before we move on to that type log, just give us a little bit more detail on your development plan for this spacing unit.
So for this spacing unit, we plan to drill one lease line well down the lease line of 5, 6, 7, and 8 as depicted in that unit. Again, we have some other offset wells in the normal 2 section units that we may drill from the same pad on, but again, these wells are kind of still in the planning stages, so that may change.
Okay. Let's move on then to exhibit number 3, that type log that you discussed. Can you just walk us through that?
Yeah, again, type log showing the Bakken pool here for JN exploration well BN 1-17. We have the porosity log suite on the left and the resistivity log suite on the right for that well. The logs are showing the lower portion of the lodgepole formation, the upper Bakken shale, the middle Bakken, the lower Bakken shale, in the upper portion of the Three Forks. Similar lithology here. This type well is located a little bit to the south as we're going out of the basin, so the middle Bakken is a bit thinner here relative to the last well, a couple feet thinner, so that is the only thing to note.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 2 and 3.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Dutch, the Middle Bakken is the target here again?
Correct, yes.
And what is the timing of development for these spacing units?
If we drill from that common pad, section 32, I believe we would batch drill all 3 of those. I can't say a point in time. I do not think these are on our drilling schedule yet, so I don't know when exactly we would drill them in the future, if that is what you're asking.
It was, so it's more than a year out?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
All right. Derek, let's look at exhibit number 4, and can you take us through the reservoir data for this spacing unit?
Sure. Similar lithology. It's a dolomitic siltstone, similar bottom hole pressure, 285 degrees, 40-degree API crude, with similar gas gravity of 0.91, similar gas-oil ratio of 860 scuffs per barrel. It's a 2560 acre spacing unit. As Dutch mentioned, slightly thinner. We estimate a middle Bakken thickness of 20 feet here, with an average porosity of 6.2%, with an average water saturation of 30%, with the same oil formation volume factor of 1.61 reservoir barrels per stock tank barrels, and the estimated oil in place is 10.7 million barrels, and we estimate an ultimate recovery of 350,000 stock tank barrels per well, which amounts to a 3.3% per well ultimate recovery factor.
Okay. I assume the economics are pretty similar as well, but can you just briefly run us through exhibit number 5?
Sure. As you'd expect, the EUR on this is slightly less than the unit to the north, which corresponds to the reservoir being thinner. But we expect a similar IP with a reduced EUR of the 350,000 barrels. Similar well costs, similar royalty burden and pricing. We expect a payout time of 5.36 years with an ROI of 1.32 with a rate of return of just over 10%.
And Derek, again, if the commission approves the 2560 to allow for the lease line well, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, it will.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 4 and 5, as well as exhibit 6, the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Derek, does a 10% rate of return meet your economic threshold to drill this well?
Yes, but we're obviously optimistic on oil prices improving. And in this particular area, with this EUR, it's very sensitive to every input. So
if well costs were to come down or pricing were to increase, not very dramatically, it could have a pretty large effect on increasing that. So we're optimistic.
Okay, thank you.
If you mentioned it, I apologize, but when do you guys plan to spud this?
We're still in the planning phases of that, and it's competing with some of our other development areas, but it's likely to be within the next 2 years approximately. But it's not on our current drilling schedule.
I'm not sure who spoke to it, but you spoke about developing these with other wells in the units. Can somebody kind of run me through that briefly?
Dutch, you want to cover that?
I can take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mentioned that there's we plan to drill a common pad in that section 32 of 144.97. And we have a couple wells to the north and south within the normal 2 section spacing units there that we would likely, if it makes sense, to drill them all from a common pad, we'd likely do them all at the same time. But again, still planning and can't speak 100% certainty on that.
And would those all still be 2-mile wells from that common pad?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31715. Case number 31716, application of True Oil LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bowline Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 1920 acre spacing unit described as section 32, Township 148 North, Range 101 West, and sections 5 and 8, Township 147 North, Range 101 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 7 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Case has been continued to our June hearings. That concludes our hearing for case number 31716. Case number 31717, application of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Foreman Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 5120 acre spacing unit described as section as 5, 6, 7, 8, 17, 18, 19, and 20, Township 150 North, Range 102 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granted to the relief as may be appropriate. This case has been dismissed. Concludes your hearing for case number 31717. Case number 31718. Application of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Randolph Bakken Pool to establish 2 overlapping stand-up 1920 acre spacing units described as sections 19, 30, and 31, and sections 20, 29, and 32, Township 150 North, Range 103 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. I've got 3 witnesses that will be appearing telephonically: Greg Sandberg, John Prim, and Caitlin McNeely, and I need to call them now.
Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me? All right. They're on the line.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Greg, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Absolutely. Greg Sandberg. I'm a landman for Whiting Oil and Gas, subsidiary of Ford Energy.
And do you have your business address?
Oh, I'm sorry. 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
Okay. And Greg, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Sandberg be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Greg, let's start with L1, if I could have you identify the spacing units we're asking for at this hearing.
Absolutely. L1 is the locator map identifying sections 19, 30, and 31, and 20, 29, and 32 of Township 150 North, Range 103 West.
Okay, and then moving on to L2, what would Whiting's working interest be in those spacing units?
In 1930 and 31, the working interest in there would be 54.5%, and 20, 29, and 32 would be 81.87%.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Sandberg. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Prim?
Yep.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
John, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is John Prim. I'm a geologist with Whiting Oil and Gas, subsidiary of Cord Energy. Business address 1001 Fannin Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And John, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying these spacing units?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Prim be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And John, let's start with G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units?
Yep, G1, as you said, shows the Upper Bakken structure centered over Township 150 North, 103 West, with the two proposed spacing units highlighted, and it's showing that the Bakken underlying the spacing units is dipping from approximately 8415 feet subsea TVD in the northwest to approximately 8455 subsea TVD in the southeast.
Okay. Let's move on to G2. Can you take us through your ISOPAC map?
Yeah, so G2 is centered over the same area, showing the thickness of the middle Bakken with contour intervals of 2 feet. And it's showing that it's slightly thickening across the two spacing units from approximately 20 feet thick in the west to approximately 23 feet in the east of these two proposed spacing units.
Okay. And then moving on to G3, can you tell us what you're showing us on that type log?
Yeah, so the type log is taken from the federal 1942, which is in section 19 of the western proposed spacing unit, that northernmost section of that proposed spacing unit. And it's centered over the middle Bakken reservoir interval, showing the reservoir properties we expect to encounter in the subsurface.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Ms. McNeely?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Caitlin, can you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Caitlin McNeely. I'm a development engineer employed by Whiting Oil and Gas Corporation, a subsidiary of Cord Energy. I'm located at 1001 Fannin Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And Caitlin, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Had your qualifications received as that of an expert? And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes.
Okay, let's look at E1. Can you tell us how you would develop each of these 1920s?
Yes. So first highlighted in red is the unit in sections 19, 30, and 31 with the plan pad off lease to the north in gray. And then highlighted in blue is the second unit covering sections 20, 29, and 32 with the pad plan on the north side of the unit also shown in gray. Both of these pad locations are still being scoped and are not finalized. And then the purple lines are the proposed middle Bakken wells, 4 in each unit for a total of 8.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and move on to E2. If you could summarize the reservoir data and then the economics.
Sure. The reservoir properties are typical of what we see in this area. And then as discussed, these are 3-mile laterals with 4 wells in each unit. We're expected to recover about 590 MBO with an investment around $9.4 million per well and a discounted CIR10 of 0.66.
And Caitlin, in your opinion then, if the 1920s are approved, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Caitlin, on your exhibit E1, and I know you just indicated that the surface locations are not finalized, but is Whiting at least looking at the possibility of using that existing pad that's in section 17 to the north?
Yes, we are looking at utilizing that pad.
Okay, so that there is a chance that at least one of these pads won't be a new build.
Yes. This is all on Forest Service land, so it's just working through the EA to see what we can do for those pad locations.
Both spacing units, surface locations are on Forest Service?
Yes.
And what's the anticipated spud date for the spacing unit?
Kind of similar to the last comment, it's really dependent on our EA approval. So they're both on Forest Service, so our plan development timeline is in between 2027 and 2030.
Do you have an idea of which 1920 you would drill first?
I'm not sure which one we would drill first, but I would think it would be the one to the east in the blue unit.
And those will be batch drilled then?
Yes.
What's your interwell spacing, your optimum interwell spacing for both of these?
I can't comment on that. I don't know if, John, do you have any commentary for that? If not, we can get back to you.
If he knows, I guess.
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button there. Yeah, in this area, as we kind of push out towards the fringe, or away from the core of the basin, this four well per section is looking like more of a typical development pattern as we see as we push out this way. So, that would work out to be about 1,300, 1,320 feet inner well spacing.
Okay. And in section 20, there's a well, I'm assuming anyhow, that's what you're indicating on your exhibit there. There's 2 little black dots with a line, I'm assuming a directional well. Is that in the Bakken Formation and an active well bore, or can you tell me what that is supposed to be depicted there?
It's, looks like,
If I'm correct and it helps, I think it's file number 10560, and it is a different operator's well, and that's why I'm asking.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like that's a White Rock well.
So I'll say, if I can jump in real quick, I'm not sure, if you're looking at Caitlin's exhibit, I'm not sure if that's the exact place, but on my exhibits I show gray dots where existing wells are. There are no currently existing Middle Bakken or Three Forks wells within the 2 proposed spacing units. Those gray dots shown, there's 3 existing wells within the 2 spacing units combined, and they're all 3 are verticals that perfed in different zones, primarily Duperow and Madison. So if I'm looking at Caitlin's exhibit correct, that's probably that kind of southwest in section 20 well, and I believe that's primarily a Madison well, if I have that correct.
Okay, so you don't anticipate any wellbore collision issues at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Caitlin, or maybe Greg, sections 20, 19, and 24 are an existing 1920 laydown that was brought to the commission by Whiting. Would it be appropriate to terminate that?
Yes, it would.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31718. Case number 31719, application of Five States Operating Company LLC for an order 1, establishing 8 stand-up 320-acre drilling units consisting of the west half of sections 22, 23, 26, and 27, and the east half of sections 22, 23, 26, and 27, Township 138 North, Range 104 West, Golden Valley, County, North Dakota. 2, authorizing 1 horizontal well to be drilled in the Madison Formation on each such unit not closer than 500 feet from the unit boundary, or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Five States Operating Company, LLC. I have 1 witness, Jeff Brem, and I need to call him now.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, can you hear me? All right. All right, we've got Mr. Brem.
Mr. Brem, do
Yes, good morning.
you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Jeff, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Hey, my name is Jeffrey Brem. I am. One second here. Sorry, I was had to turn the sound down there.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Jeffrey Brem. I work for Phoenix Energy Consultant in Katy, Texas. I am a consultant for Five States Energy. And I'm a geologist.
Okay. And Jeff, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have.
Okay. And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Wait, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. What were those qualifications accepted as an expert in what field?
Yeah, so, Jeff, can you just take us through your background? You're primarily geologist, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. But you also have familiarity and have previously been sworn as an expert when you've testified on geology matters as well as some of the reservoir properties and the economics on some previous spacing, proposed spacing in this area, right?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Are you offering him as an expert
I would, yep,
in geology?
yes.
Motion granted.
Jeff, let's look at your exhibit number 1. Can you identify the drilling units, proposed drilling units that we've requested as part of this case?
Yes. Exhibit 1 is a location map which shows primarily Township 138 North, Range 104 West in Golden Valley County. It shows the 8 requested 320-acre spacing units in sections 22, 23, 26, and 27 of that township.
Let's move on to the next exhibit number 2. Just tell us what your working interest would be in those drilling units that we've requested.
Yes, this is a zoomed-in version of the previous map. It shows the 8 requested 320-acre stand-ups and our current working interest in those 8 stand-ups in percentage.
Okay. And then moving on, exhibit number 3. Can you take us through that net pay map?
Okay, this is a net pay map from well control, the well control that's shown and identified on the map. This is a net pay map using a 9% porosity cutoff and a less than 65% water saturation cutoff. This is the thickness of that net pay in feet.
And then moving on to exhibit number 4, can you describe the structure underlying these drilling units in this area?
Okay, this is the structure at the top of the so-called Freiberg gamma marker, which is essentially at the top of the Mohall equivalent in this area. It shows an approximate depth of about minus 6,200 feet subsea in this area, with a dip to the northeast in the requested spacing area of about 0.4 of a degree to the northeast.
Okay. And then let's move on then to exhibit number 5. Take a look at that cross-section that you've identified on the map and kind of walk us through that cross-section and tell us what you're looking at targeting here.
Okay. This is a cross-section between 2 of the wells that are within the requested spacing area, Deets 3327 and Deets 2323, that are identified on the map. This is the full log suite, the digital log suite that I have for these 2 wells, plus the calculated porosity and bulk volume water, bulk volume oil for that porosity. It identifies 3 reservoir targets. In our designation, what we call the B, C, and D, and that is within the Mohall equivalent as described elsewhere.
Okay. And then let's go on to exhibit number 6. We're in a wildcat area here. We're looking at, establishing a drilling unit. Can you explain sort of what your plans are initially with the, the initial well, as well as potential future development?
Right. This is our current proposed test well location for this area in relation to some of the wells that were on the previous maps there. We are in the east half of section 22,
our proposed location would be within a 500-foot setback within that 320, the requested 320. Our initial proposed development or completion rather of this would be as a vertical well to start with approximately 8 to 12 feet of perfs as shown in the offset type log at the top of the what I identify as the A and B porosity. If this initial completion is successful and shows some merit, we would then proceed on to drilling a north or the south to north horizontal, an approximate length of about 3,000 feet, as shown in the map to the left.
Okay. And then moving on to exhibit number 7, then what would the economics look like?
We are anticipating, based on production from wells that are in adjacent fields, and that would be Square Butte and Dora, that we would have an additional rate IP of about 300 barrels a day. This is for the vertical case. We are anticipating an EUR for this well, for this completion, of about 411,000 barrels. The well cost that we are anticipating for this is $3.676 million. We have a return on investment of 1.47 and an IRR of 16.7 with a payback of a little over 5 years. And this is using a $65 flat oil price and OPEX of $17,000 per month.
Okay. And Jeff, in your opinion, if the drilling unit's established and approved by the commission to allow you to drill and produce this well, in your opinion, would that then prevent waste, and would it also protect correlative rights?
Yes, it would.
I have no further questions at this time for Mr. Brem. I'd offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Hi, Jeff. I have a question on Exhibit 6. Those initial completions in that A to B porosity zone, is that where you plan to land and drill your horizontal if those were successful? Or would you surface?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff, on exhibit, I guess it's the economics exhibit, whatever one that is, are those numbers ran for the full development of the horizontal, not just the vertical portion?
This is just for the vertical portion. We do not have economics yet for the horizontal case.
Okay, thank you. And then what was the how long would you plan to produce the vertical portion before going horizontal?
I would say probably a matter of perhaps months, several months.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
Thank you. And then what's your timing on this? Your expected spud timing?
We're hoping to spud this sometime during this calendar year. Hopefully in the better months, summertime or early fall.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Jeff, if you decide to drill the horizontal lateral, how would that be accomplished? Would you drill a new well, or would you plug back and do a casing exit?
We would do a casing exit, probably below the Midale, so that we can maintain most of the wellbore within the Frobisher, Alita, anhydrites without any exposure to any offset porosity zones.
So how many feet above the target zone would you have to do your exit?
That would be approximately 140 feet, as I recall, to the base of the Midale, to the top of the Frobisher Alita.
So 140 feet above what marker?
Above the gamma marker.
Yeah, which formation?
Well, the gamma marker is shown in Exhibit 5, and that is, gamma marker is between RA and B at the top of the mohole.
Yeah, that's your target.
So the gamma marker, gamma marker is approximately where the target would be as well.
Correct, but your exit, how far above your target zone would your exit be?
As I said, about 140 feet above the gamma marker
For your target zone?
for the, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Are you talking about the exit from the casing?
Correct.
Yeah. Again, about 140 feet above the gamma marker, as shown in Exhibit 5.
So that gamma marker at approximately 8860.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And if that were the same depth of the proposed well, then the exit point would be at about 8720 in this case.
So currently, statewide well spacing rules dictate that a well not drilled not deeper than the Mission Canyon, a vertical well, has to be on a 40-acre drilling unit. So if this well is drilled vertically, what do you anticipate, and it only produces vertically, what do you anticipate the spacing unit should be?
In that case, I would anticipate probably an 80 or 160 acre spacing that we would then request from that point.
So since this is a drilling unit, and I'm just thinking out loud here, would you be opposed to drilling the vertical well on a statewide 40-acre drilling unit?
Not at the current time, no. I would say no. I guess we are requesting a 320-acre unit for future horizontal drilling. But I take your case that we can only do this sort of one step at a time.
Yeah, I think with the application we have before us, we certainly could set up the 320-acre drilling unit for a horizontal well. But the spacing unit for a vertical well was not contemplated until you testified. And you said you would produce it for a matter of months vertically?
It would be produced for a matter of months to determine its viability in this area, because we are moving into an area here where there is not established production nearby.
So Wade, I'm thinking, I want to get your reaction that we would permit it on a statewide 40. If it's found productive, then of course it would come in for temporary spacing hearing. At that time, we would establish the spacing unit.
Right.
And I get the timeline is gonna be kinda tight, and there's probably gonna be, could be overlap, but I don't see anything in the,
Would that accommodate the current proposed surface location though? Or
yeah, it's 500 feet from a quarter, so if it looks like they're gonna drill, let's say at 660, that certainly would accommodate that. Do you have a surface location picked out?
Not as of yet, just, within 500-foot setback box.
So you're saying drill the initial vertical just on the statewide 40, and then when we get production, it goes on for temp spacing, then you could establish the 320 spacing for the horizontal at that time?
No, we would establish the 320 for a horizontal well at this time,
Okay,
but the
but the initial
vertical-
vertical would be 40.
the vertical portion of the well would somewhat be outside of this case, because you could do it right now without a hearing.
Sure.
The only question I would have is, and maybe you can consult with your client and let us know, is if it's on a statewide 40, is that gonna accommodate their surface location?
Right, and that's I guess my concern. So, are you following, Jeff?
I am, yes. And I believe the answer to that is that the location we're contemplating would be approximately in the middle of a 40-acre square spacing unit.
Okay, so when you drill that, the vertical portion, just the vertical portion, that would be on a 40. And then if it works out and you elect to do that horizontal lateral, then we would be looking at the 320.
Correct.
Is that okay with 5 states?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll proceed accordingly, and of course, the completion report is due within 30 days if it's found productive.
Right.
Well, actually, it's due immediately, but hopefully within 30 days.
Then it gets docketed.
And then it gets docketed, and these times could overlap. It's not gonna, it, in my opinion, will not impede 5 states.
Sure.
It's just that they probably shouldn't pay out any production proceeds until they have a spacing unit. And, of course, at that time, they would have a better idea if they're gonna drill it horizontally, which.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31719. Case number 31720, application of Marathon Oil Company for an order permitting the use of casing laid on the ground for the purpose of pumping hydraulic fracturing fluid between 2 specific well pads located Section 18, Township 145 North, Range 93 West, Bailey Field, Dunn County, North Dakota, and allowing casing to be installed from the pad of the Georgia 14-8H well located in the northeast quarter of Section 18, Township 145 North, Range 93 West, connected to the pad of the George 41-18H well and Sunel 11-17H well located in the northeast quarter of Section 18, Township 145 North, Range 93 West, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota. Appearing in this case on behalf of Marathon Oil Company. I'll have one witness on this case. It'll be Allison Trahan, and I need to call her now.
Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me? All right, Allison, are you ready? Okay. All right, she's on the line.
Ms. Trahan, do
Yes, sir.
you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Allison, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Allison Trahan, employed by ConocoPhillips as a Bakken completions engineer, and the business address is 925 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas, 77079.
Allison, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have not.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and briefly take us through your education and relevant work experience?
Okay, I graduated from Louisiana State University with a Bachelor of Science in Petroleum Engineering, and then worked at Halliburton Energy Services for 3.5 years, followed by Marathon Oil Company for 6 years, and now ConocoPhillips right at 0.5 year, making for 2.5 years of oil and gas experience.
Okay. And Allison, are you familiar with the completion operations that will result in the, the casing on the surface that we're discussing today?
I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony, Ms. Trahan, be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Okay. And Allison, let's start with Exhibit C1. Can you just identify the two pads that you're looking at, laying the casing between?
Yes. So this is an aerial view of those two pads we'll be completing in Dunn County. On that right side will be the Middleton pad, and then we will remote line to the Trinca pad. As of now, that's scheduled to stimulate starting at the end of July and go through mid-August. Again, the plan will be to rig up the stimulation crew on that Middleton pad, which is an 8-well pad, and then we'll run the remote casing to that Trinca 2-well pad. Both the Marathon Oil and ConocoPhillips have ran remote casing lines for frac in prior years. This application is different because we plan to utilize a blend of fresh and produced water rather than just fresh water, which we have done historically.
Sure. And then let's move on to C2, a little more detail on sort of the route of where the line will run.
Yes, so again, another aerial view of the two pads flat. The remote line is shown in red, so it will be going off the end of the zipper manifold, which will be located on that Middleton pad where the stimulation crew is rigged up, come out the southeast corner around an existing facility where it will come back up northeast to the zipper manifold on the Trinca pad. The pads are very close together, so the remote line should only be about 1,060 feet with no more than 500 feet coming off the pad.
Okay. And then moving on to C3, just kind of briefly run us through the specs and kind of how the job will work.
Yeah, so the casing and connection specs for the remote line are a 7 5/8 inch 55.3 pound T95 casing string with the Tenaris 563 premium wedge connection. The casing has an internal yield pressure of 16,350 pounds and a highest strength premium wedge connection. Again, this is allowing for about a 1.3 safety factor. As far as the makeup of the line, we bring in a casing crew and a Pathfinder thread rep. And the connections will all be made up on the main Middleton pad where the stimulation crew is located. So they'll be torqued up to spec. Each torque will be reported, graphed, and documented. Once the first connection is made, we cast the end of it. An excavator pulls out the joint, and then that process repeats until we have the whole line rigged up, and we will drag that line to the remote pad. And the rig down will just be the reverse of that operation. All the rig up and rig down is completed on the pad itself, and nothing will be done off pad. Once we complete the rig up of that remote line, we will notify the state 24 hours prior to pressure testing the line. We fill the line with fresh water. We'll walk the line and check for any leaks prior to applying the pressure. We will then work our way up to max pressure, which in this case will be 12,500 pounds. And similar to our casing test for the 7-inch that we do in the wellbore, we'll shut down the pump, start the pressure test, and we will chart for 30 minutes and record the pressure, looking for less than 5% leak off. Once the 30 minutes is passed without the indication of a leak, we will perform a visual inspection and confirm we have good test. Once we move on to the simulation portion of this, again, we'll continue to routinely walk the line and visually inspect it.
Okay. And then looking at C4, can you just take us through some of the inspection process to ensure integrity of the line?
Yes, so our remote casing line has been utilized in a simulation prior before. So our standard process is to inspect the joints and threads according to API specs. So the report we've seen here was the initial visual inspection done. So in this process, they'll look for any fitting or damaged threads. They look 3 to 4 feet down from the connection and check for any slip or tone cuts. So for this job, they looked at 31 joints. 2 were damaged, so we will not be using those. We will also be performing a blacklight inspection. This is a process that uses a magnetized solution on the metal to identify any cracks underneath the blacklight. And then we will also do a wall thickness measurement with the ultrasonic tool just to ensure that none of the joints are too worn down.
Okay. And then finally, let's look at C5 and just kind of explain some of the safety considerations as well as the benefits, kind of why you're looking at doing this.
Yeah, so as I mentioned on the safety side, we will be routinely inspecting that line. We have operators on each of the pads, both the Milton and the Trinka. We'll also install a check valve on that remote Trinka pad to ensure that no fluid from the well could travel back through the casing. We have our standard pressure relief valves in line for each well. The pressure is also continuously monitored during the frac, and we have constant radio communication, so if a leak is noticed, we're able to immediately shut down the pump. Visually, we'll have visible markers going throughout the case or alongside the casing, and then on the Middleton pad specifically, we will have a drive over the line, and we'll utilize gate guards so that no one's driving over this line while pumping. From the environmental side of things, this line doesn't cross over a body of water or any environmental sensitive area. And then for benefits, again, using the produced water, we plan to use a blend of anywhere from 25 to 40% produced water, with the rest being fresh. This is going to greatly reduce our capital expense by not having to pay for the fresh water. And then the remote line specifically reduces our expenses by requiring less mobilization. And then again, just efficiencies we gain with simulating these wells with other wells. These are also safety benefits because we have one less simulation crew rig up and down, and the traffic and rig up activities that come with that.
Okay. That is all the questions I have, and I would offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from staff?
Well, listen, starting with your exhibit C-2, and just to help me understand a little better, I guess, but what are you connecting to on the Middleton pad to get the water?
So we'll come through, we'll have a frac tank set up that will be plumbed into the zipper manifold connected to the wellheads, which will then enter through the end of the zipper manifold into the remote line.
So is the produced water in the frac tank on that location, is what you're saying?
It will be in a double-lined minion tank. It will be blended, produced, and fresh. We will also have a frac tank of fresh water, so we have the option to switch to just fresh if we need to do that. And both will be plumbed into this line.
So by allowing this line, you're saving space on the other pad during the completion operation. Am I understanding that right?
That's correct.
Okay. In that elbow that you show on that same exhibit, how is that connected? I mean, would you have a flexible joint there? Is it a solid joint? I mean, how is that elbow there? Or maybe just the depiction showing a little more excessive than what it actually is?
It is a little more expensive than it actually is, but we will utilize third-party flex hoses. Our provider's FNC, and those are the flex hoses we've used both Conoco and Marathon the past couple of years in other stimulation operations, like coming off of our wellhead and within our manifolding.
And that flex hose has a capability of the same maximum pressures that you intend to pressure this line to?
Yes, it does.
And you just indicated that you have used that before. Have you ever noticed any or had any issues with them of any times in the past?
Not in my experience.
So if the water is pressured or is being pushed through the line and you do have a leak, what's the process to have the water reversed or pushed back so that you're not just dumping all that water on location once you find that there is a leak?
Right, and the process will be to shut down to stop it from leaking any further, and then at that point we'd have to evaluate on location, I guess, where exactly the leak is at, how, what mitigations we're going to need to close the leak. If it is a small leak, it could be maybe flushed at a low rate with fresh water, so that we don't continue to leak produce water. But I do think that would be a leak specific plan.
So essentially the line would have valves in which you would isolate or shut in that fluid inside that line until that determination is made?
That's correct.
And is shutdown done manually, or do you have automation on that to do, if it's noted while you're walking, does a person have to manually shut that in, or is that automated?
It is automated. Well, I guess it depends on what causes the shutdown. If it's a pressure threshold that's met, we can have the global and local kick outs on the pumps that shut that down. We also have a pressure release valve in line, so if it sees the pressure, it would release. But if it's a smaller leak and it was more of a visual site, then we get on the radio and we just immediately can shut down all the pumps. And that would be done in the frac van. So, and then at that point they can come out and close the valves in the line.
In that section of line that would be between the pads, I believe you indicated roughly 500 foot would be essentially between pads or off location. Is there going to be some kind of liner laid underneath that particular part of it, or any form of protection there should one of the connection points there leak that would be essentially off location?
And we have historically not done that, but that is something we could look at doing since it is such a small length of line.
Okay, so it wouldn't be opposed should the commission choose to request having some form of isolation under that section?
Yes.
Have you pressured this particular line to the proposed pressure before in the past when you've done your freshwater completion?
Our prior freshwater completions have been a max of 10,000 psi, so that will be all it's been pressured to. We haven't gone to 12,500.
Okay, thank you.
Allison, I got a few questions and I might be jumping around a little bit, but so the drive over you talk about, where is that at?
So if you look in the exhibit with the plat, it will be on the larger Middleton plat, kind of in between those two facilities. We'll have a drive over portion there.
And just out of curiosity, why do you need a drive over there? Can't you avoid that for that period of time?
I think it's mainly, we might be doing some time ops on that location, but we should be able to direct traffic and not need it often.
So the hydraulic fracturing of these wells on both paths will be taking place simultaneously?
Yes, it will be split into two, but we will be fracking 3 on the Middleton pad with the 2 on the Trinca at the same time.
Do you have a surface use agreement that allows you to lay this casing between the two pads?
Yes, we do.
The minion tank you spoke of, that'll be permitted through a sundry with the commission, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think that's ongoing and not completed as of yet.
Sure. So this line on exhibit C3, you're gonna pressure test it to 12.5?
Yes, sir.
And I thought, you said this casing has been used previously on a similar operation, what, with freshwater?
Yes, sir.
What's your maximum operating pressure you anticipate during the frac?
Our pressure release valves will be set at 11,800. So we anticipate frac max pressure will be treating more around 11,000 to 11,300 or below that.
And how many days do you anticipate this will be in use?
The approximately 20 to 25 days.
The inspection of the line, that's all visually since it's so short?
Yes. And historically on the Marathon side, we would only do a visual inspection, but because we are utilizing the produced water, we are going to perform those other two that I mentioned.
Sure. What is the source of the produced water?
We have a facility infrastructure and a lot of activity in that area. So we have multiple production facilities that have water that we can get on a pipeline that we have there, as well as we plan to flow back some neighboring wells that were completed recently, and we will truck that flow back water to be utilized as well.
So so the water will be delivered some via pipeline
Yes,
and some via truck?
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31720. What do we got left? We've got 3 left. We can break now and call the rest 3 afterwards, or we can try to...
No.
Mr. Examiner, if I may, I have the next 2 cases are Conoco Burlington Resources, and the witnesses are on the line now, and they're kind of companion cases.
Okay, we'll move forward then. Case number 31627, application of Mirex Petroleum Corp. For an order amending applicable orders for the Riding Rock Bakken Pool to establish 4 overlapping stand-up 1920 acre spacing units described as sections 4, 9, and 16, sections 5, 8, and 17, sections 20, 29, and 32, and sections 21, 28, and 33, Township 161 North, Range 101 West, Divide County, North Dakota, and authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled in each such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case has been continued to our June hearings. That concludes the hearing for case number 31627. Case number 31721. Application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Murphy Creek Bakken Pool to establish two overlapping 1920 acre spacing units described as sections 25 and 36, Township 145 North, Range 95 West, and Section 4, Township 144 North, Range 95 West, and Sections 9, 16, and 21, Township 144 North, Range 95 West, Dunn County, North Dakota, and authorize 9 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit, and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. I have 3 witnesses telephonic on this case, Mark Selvey, Adam Mullins, and Will Carlisle, and they should all be on the line now.
Mr. Salvi,
Yes, we're here. Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Mark, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes. My name is Mark Salvi. I'm employed by ConocoPhillips Company as a staff land negotiator, and my office address is 935 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas 77079.
And Mark, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Selby be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Mark, let's start with your Exhibit L1. Can you identify the spacing units for us?
Yes. Exhibit L1 is a locator map showing the 2 proposed 1,920-acre spacing units. The Gold Point DSU outlined in red includes Township 145, 95 West, Section 25 and 36, and 144, 95 West, Section 4. And the Kudrna 1,920-acre DSU is directly to the south and includes Sections 9, 16, and 21 in Township 144 North, Range 95 West.
Okay.
We also show the existing underlying 1,280-acre DSUs and the existing well.
Sure. Let's move on to L2 then. Can you take us through the working interest?
Yes. In the northern DSU, ConocoPhillips, including Marathon's interest, owns approximately 82% working interest in that 3-section DSU, and in the southern DSU, ConocoPhillips Company owns approximately 56% working interest.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the land exhibits.
Mr. Minute, any questions from the staff?
Mark, do you know what the offset is across that township line?
Uh, 221 feet.
And is that from a registered surveyor's plat that you've obtained?
Yes, it is.
Could you submit that for the record, please?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mullins,
Sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Adam, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Adam Mullins. I am employed full-time with ConocoPhillips as a geologist. My business address is 925 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas.
And Adam, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
I would move the testimony of Mr. Mullins be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
All right, Adam, let's start with G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units?
Absolutely. So
Exhibit G1, structure map of the Upper Bakken Shale. The black bolt polygons denote the two 1920-acre spacey units with the Gold Point to the north and the Kudra to the south. There is an existing type log on Exhibit G2, notified on this map as a black star and with the appropriate title.
Okay. And let's move on to that type log that you just referenced, G2. Can you describe what you're showing there?
Yes, this is the Hutchinson A1 in section 30, and denoted on this type log with the black dashed lines, the top and base of the Bakken pool, as well as the associated formations within that pool. The gray star denotes the target of our development plan, the Middle Bakken unit.
Okay. And then let's move on to G3. Can you tell us how you would propose to develop these two 1920s?
Absolutely. So we are proposing to develop these two 1920s with focusing on the Gold Point here initially. We will be developing that with 5 wells per section. In addition, we'll have the unit line well on the eastern side, which we'll discuss in case number 31722. So a total of 6 are shown here, and there's 2 existing in section 2536 on the eastern end. In section 4 of the Gold Point, proposed Gold Point, there is half of the 2 existing 2-mile wells there that cover section 4-9. Moving on to the Kudra DSU to the south. The existing wells are the 2 that I just mentioned. In addition, in section 1621, we have 2 other 2-mile wells existing. The Kudra is, we propose developing that with 5 wells per section. This is consistent with what the offset operators board has been doing in the the DSUs to the east of it.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from staff? Mr. Carlisle,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter to be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Will, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Will Carlisle. I work as a reservoir engineer for ConocoPhillips. My business address is 925 North Elbridge Parkway, Houston, Texas.
Okay. And Will, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
All right. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Carlisle be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
Will, looking at E1, can you tell us how you would drill and complete these wells?
Yeah, so looking at this 15K wellbore schematic, we anticipate to be able to drill all of these wells as 3-string well designs. We would be, as Adam mentioned, landing these wells in the Middle Bakken, planning to have a multi-stage horizontal track with approximately 75 stages.
Okay. And then let's look at E2. Can you summarize the reservoir data for us?
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is some pretty standard Middle Bakken reservoir and fluid data. The main thing I want to point out is our expected oil recovery from a single well is around 850,000 barrels of oil, which translates to a approximate recovery factor of 7% per well.
Okay. Let's move on to E3 then. Can you describe the economics for us?
Yeah, so what we're showing here is, estimating a well cost approximately of $10 million and having a positive discounted cash flow of approximately $4 million
generate a positive rate of return for all working interest parties.
Okay. And Will, in your opinion, would establishment of the two 1920s for the development you described prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
I got a question for you, Wade.
Yeah.
This is all looking so familiar. Did we hear this before?
So you did, I can't remember the month, but it was, I think initially they were looking at 4-milers. But now it's the two stacked 3-miler 1920s.
Okay.
So yeah, we're a similar case. I can't remember exactly which month. It was earlier.
And then we dismissed that,
Yep,
take-
correct.
Okay. I wasn't losing my mind.
No.
Wade, is June 4th long enough to keep the record open?
Yeah, Mark, that June 4th should be fine to get that supplemental information, the survey.
Yeah, all you needed was the survey. Yeah, we can get that to you this afternoon.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, the record will remain open in this case until June 4th. That concludes our hearing for case number 31721. Case number 31722, application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Murphy Creek Bakken pool to establish an overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit consisting of sections 25 and 36 Township 145 North, Range 95 West, sections 30 and 31 Township 145 North, Range 94 West, and sections 3 and 4 Township 144 North, Range 95 West, Dunn County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. And, Mr. Examiner, this is essentially a companion case to the previous. We're looking at a 3840 for a lease line well, and it'll be the same 3 witnesses on this one.
And they're all still under oath.
Okay. And, Mark, let's look at your exhibit number L1, and can you identify the proposed 3840 we're discussing?
Yes, Exhibit L1 is our locator map showing the proposed 6-section DSU, which includes sections 25 and 36 of 145.95, sections 3 and 4 of 144.95, and sections 30 and 31 of 145.94. We also show the existing 1,280 acre spacing unit and the existing wells on this map.
Okay. And Mark, is there any currently any development on sections 30 and 31?
No, not currently.
Okay. And do you know why? Can you explain that for us?
Yes. So as you can see on this map, there's approximately 480 acres of unleased federal sections 30 and 31. These are currently managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and are currently categorized as unavailable to lease. This acreage lies beneath the Lake Iowa National Wildlife Refuge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Has Burlington Resources made any attempts or efforts to get those federal tracts leased?
Yes, we have attempted to obtain U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service consent to lease multiple times, but as of today, the BLM has not received authorization to lease these tracts on behalf of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which they need for having those to at least sell.
Sure. And I guess, Mark, as part of that, is it your understanding that production from the lease line well that we're proposing on the overlapping spacing unit that's requested, that could be established, that you could establish drainage with that well, and that could potentially allow these federal tracts to get leased?
Yes, that is correct. Our understanding is that a positive drainage determination by the BLM is a probable impetus for obtaining this authorization from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to drill or to lease this acreage.
Sure. And then in order to drill that lease line well on this proposed 3840, though, you're requesting relief then from the Commission's current policy that there be development on all of the sections, you know, kind of consisting of the overlapping spacing unit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And if that policy were waived and you were allowed to drill that lease line well, in this instance, in your opinion, would that then prevent waste by allowing the development of 30 and 31?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And Mark, are you aware of any other instances where the commission has waived this policy?
Yes, I believe Hess's spacing unit, established by order number 33151, waived this policy due to a similar set of circumstances.
Okay. Let's just move on then to the next land exhibit L2. Can you take us through the working interest in this proposed spacing unit?
Yes. So ConocoPhillips, including Marathon Oil, owns 43.24% working interest in this proposed DSU. 12.5% of DSU is unleased federal, and other working interest owners make up the additional 44.26% of that unit.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Salvi at this point. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Mr. Admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Mark, did I hear you correctly that there's a potential with this lease line well to establish drainage in section 31 that would allow or force the Fish and Wildlife Service to lease that?
We believe it would kick off an analysis by the BLM of probable drainage, which would allow that acreage to move from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to BLM and be available for leasing.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Okay. Adam, let's look at exhibit G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing unit?
Yes. So this is the same map we just viewed on case number 31721. Only difference, of course, is that the 3840 acre spacing unit is identified on this map with a black polygon. The type log is the same type log that we saw in the previous case in section 30.
Okay. And looking at the same target.
Yep. So again, exhibit G2, top and base of Bakken Pool and the associated formations. As with the previous case, we're targeting the middle Bakken, which was identified by the gray star.
Okay. And then G3, what would the development look like for the 3840 then?
So on G3, you'll see in that bold dashed line is the unit line well. That well, specifically on section 30 and 31, will be spaced approximately 230 feet to the west of that unit line to avoid any risk of crossing the unleased federal mineral.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Adam, I missed that. How far off the section line will this well be located?
230 feet. And that will be consistent as well within section 4 of the southernmost section as well.
Do you know what Burlington's drilling tolerance is for when they want to?
Well, typically it's 20, 25 feet is how it's been communicated to me. This should be well within our comfort zone.
I have a question for Mark, if we can recall him.
Yeah. Mark, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So we're looking at future development of 30 and 31, if possible, is on a 1280 basis, is that right?
Yes.
And does Burlington have a leasehold in 30 and 31?
Not at the moment.
So I'm assuming that if drainage is established here, there may be already leasehold in 30 and 31, and it would be up to those individuals or Burlington, whoever, to bid on those federal minerals and then presumably develop that as a 1,280 acre spacing unit?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
All right, Will, E1, how would you propose to drill and complete this well?
Yeah, so same as what we looked at in the last case number, but this will be a three-string well design planted in the middle Bakken with a 3-mile lateral. This will be completed with a multi-stage horizontal frac at approximately 75 stages.
Okay, and then moving on to E2, presumably pretty similar reservoir data?
Yes, that is correct. In kind, approximately 850,000 stock tank barrels of oil recoverable from this well.
Okay, and then E3, how about the economics for this well?
Same, similar economics of well cost, in kind, generating a positive rate of return and discounted cash flow for the working interest owners.
Okay. So in your opinion, would approval of the 3840 to allow for the lease line well, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Will, looking at your economics for a 3-mile well, if 30 and 31 are developed as a stand-up 1280, are those wells economic?
So if 30 and 31, if those are later developed, would those wells be economic as well? And my answer to that would be yes.
Okay. Would Burlington drill 2-mile wells in 30 and 31 if it all came together where they were if they bid on it and got the federal minerals?
Yeah, there's a couple of scenarios that would be viable as 2-mile wells. We also would have the option to operate the 1280 unit to the north, called the Lincoln Hill. So we would also have the opportunity to drill from the north as 4-mile laterals. Either of those plans are viable and will be under consideration if that acreage could be leased and developed.
Yeah, I think similar to at least one other situation like this, and if you read, and I just reread my previous order dismissing that case, that we will bring sections 30 and 31 up for review, probably on an annual basis, to see how that is progressing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31722. Case number 31723. Application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bennett Creek Bakken Pool to establish 2 overlapping lay-down 2560 acre spacing units described as sections 26, 27, 28, and 29, and sections 32, 33, 34, and 35, Township 147 North, Range 99 West, Kensington County, North Dakota, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled in each such unit, or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. case has been continued to our June hearings. Concludes our hearing for case number 31723. Case number 31724. Application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for Ranch Creek and/or Bennett Creek Bach and Pool to establish a stand-up 5120 acre spacing unit described as sections 1, 2, 11, and 12, Township 146 North, Range 99 West, and sections 25, 26, 35, and 36, Township 147 North, Range 99 West, McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case has been continued to our June hearings. Concludes our hearing for case number 31724. Case number 31725, application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for Ranch Creek and/or Bennett Creek Bach and Pools to establish a stand-up 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 1 and 12, Township 146 North, Range 99 West, and sections 25 and 36, Township 147 North, Range 99 West, McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tom Throne, P.O. Box 1056 in Sheridan, Wyoming, appearing on behalf of the applicant Phoenix Operating LLC. We had originally anticipated 3 witnesses in person. We have 1 witness in person, Mr. Mark Johnson. Matt Billingsley and Eric Shivy will appear by phone, and I need to get them on the line.
Okay.
Matt and Eric, are you there? Both of, oh, okay. We'll be on the hearing room here shortly.
Perfect.
Are you guys there?
Eric, it's you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Mr. Johnson, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do.
Mark, would you state your name and address, work address for the staff, please?
My name is Mark Johnson. My work address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237. And I am employed by Phoenix Operating as the Executive Vice President of Land, Regulatory, and HSE.
And have you previously been accepted as an expert witness in petroleum land matters?
I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that we are talking about today?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Johnson be accepted as an expert witness in petroleum land matters.
Motion granted.
Have you prepared certain exhibits for this hearing?
I have.
Starting with Exhibit 1, discuss the plans that we are talking about today.
Exhibit 1 is just a overview regional map. You can see the area of interest in the southeast of corner of McKenzie County. The other rectangles you see in there are areas where Phoenix has interests and would like to develop units. But as you can see, the area of interest is highlighted, which is a little bit north of some of our other areas.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 2, please explain the spacing unit that we're talking about.
Exhibit 2 again zooms in and it shows the proposed 2560 spacing unit of sections 25 and 36 of 147.99 and 1 and 12 of 146.99.
Moving on to Exhibit 3, please discuss the ownership of Phoenix and the proposed spacing unit.
Yeah, Exhibit 3 zooms in even further of the 2560 spacing unit where Phoenix owns a 32.8% working interest. You can see a couple of wells in sections 12 and 1, that one of them was a dry hole and the other's been plugged. So there are currently no active wells in this 2560.
With only 32.8% working interest, does Phoenix intend to cooperate with the other 60% working interest owners in the area?
We do.
And did you execute the gas capture affidavit labeled as Exhibit 9 in the packet?
I did.
I have no further questions for Mr. Johnson and would ask that Exhibits 1, 2, 3, and 9 be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I have one follow-up question for Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
Mark, would you go back to Exhibit E2, please? And Phoenix continued cases 31724 and 31726 to next month, which are companion cases. And just to satisfy any curiosities staff might have, could you briefly explain why Phoenix decided to continue those cases and go forward with this one?
Yeah, we have been in discussions with Conoco about the overall layout and setup for this whole area, and they asked us to continue the western lease line well, which was the case 31724, while we are in discussions on how we will best develop acreage to the west. They had no objections to this 2560 spacing unit, and then we just canceled the eastern lease line just since it was kind of a companion case to the western east lease line.
Okay. Sorry I didn't mention that earlier, but continue, Mr. Johnson, for any questions from the staff.
Okay, any questions from the staff?
Mark, you said you canceled the eastern lease line?
Nope, we just continued it to next month.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Billingsley,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Matt, would you please state your name and address, work address for the staff?
Matthew Billingsley, address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado 80237.
And for whom do you work and in what capacity?
I work for Phoenix Operating LLC, and I'm the geoscience manager.
And have you previously testified before this commission as an expert in petroleum geology?
Yes, I have.
And are you personally familiar with the geology of the lands that are subject to this application?
Yes, I am.
I would ask that Mr. Billingsley be accepted as an expert witness in petroleum geology.
Motion granted.
Have you prepared exhibits for this hearing?
Yes.
Starting with Exhibit 4, would you describe the structure map of the Middle Bakken for the lands that are proposed for a spacing unit?
Absolutely. Exhibit 4 is a subsea DVD structure map on the top of the Middle Bakken. We have a 50-foot contour interval. The structure is dipping to the north at about a half degree. The black dots are indicating Middle Bakken well producers, and purple dots are Three Forks wells. The red outline of the box is our proposed stand-up 2560, and then the yellow line is the 8A prime cross-section with the type log located in section 36 within our proposed spacing unit, and the cross-section is on Exhibit 5.
Okay, please describe that cross-section as well as the type log.
Okay, the cross-section 8A prime flattened on the Upper Bakken Shale. Track 1 is gamma ray, track 2 is resistivity, track 3 is neutron and density porosity. When available, you can see there's a neutron density log in the type log in the center well, and then the well to the right as well. On the left, just indicating the various formation tops of the upper, middle, lower Bakken
and then Pronghorn, and the upper part of the Three Forks Formation, as well as our middle bucket target, which is our horizontal target.
And have you identified the reservoir properties on the bottom of Exhibit 5?
Yes, I have.
Please describe those.
Okay, based on our type log, the approximate DVD will be about 11,370 feet. We anticipate the average porosity about 8%, water saturation 25%, and an average gross thickness of 29 feet with a 1.5 formation volume factor. We calculated an original oil in place of 5.7 million barrels per section.
And as a geologist, do you believe the Middle Bakken is present and continuous across the entire proposed
Yes.
spacing unit? And
Absolutely.
And if the application is approved, and your opinion as a geologist, will waste be prevented, relative rights protected, and the drilling of unnecessary
Yes.
wells be prevented?
Yes, it will.
I would ask that Exhibits 4, 5, and 6 be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Shivy?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury, testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Eric, would you please state your name and work address for the record?
Yes, Eric Shibby, S-H-I-B-E-Y. My work address is 4643 South Ulster Street, Suite 1510, Denver, Colorado, 80237.
And for whom do you work and in what capacity?
I work for Phoenix Operating LLC. I'm the Vice President of Reservoir Engineering and Corporate Reserves.
And you've testified before this staff as an expert in petroleum engineering in the past?
Yes, I have.
And are you personally familiar with the lands that are subject to this application?
I am.
I would ask that Mr. Shivy be accepted as an expert witness in this matter.
Motion granted.
Starting with Exhibit 6, would you please describe the wellbore diagram you anticipate for the hopeful 4 wells in this spacing unit?
Yes, this is a standard wellbore design that we use in the Williston Basin, 9 5/8 surface casing, 7-inch intermediate, set into the Bakken with a 4.5-inch liner cemented in place. Anticipate about 105 frac stage per well.
Moving on to Exhibit 7, describe your anticipated development plan for this proposed unit.
Yes, we are planning 4 wells in units spaced 1,320 feet apart. That would be 660 from each of the section lines to the west and the east. And I've also provided on this some detail on the older P&A well, which I believe was P&A earlier this year, and then that dry hole well.
And if all goes well, would Phoenix hope to drill lease line wells on both sides of this proposed unit?
Yes, as Mark said, are dealing with the other operators, how we want to lay this out. We would anticipate drilling potentially 2 more lease lines. All 6 wells that would be drilled at the same time.
Okay, moving on to Exhibit 8. Would you please describe the well economics you anticipate for a well drilled in this spacing unit?
Yes, this is our type curve economics. We anticipate an initial first month production around 30,000 barrels of oil with an initial decline of 68% and a P factor of approximately 0.85. GOR in the area is about 2,700 SCF per barrel. That yields a EUR of about 680 MBO per well and 1670 MMCF of gas. And so that would provide about a 12 to 13% recovery factor for 4 wells DSU.
And then discuss the economics.
Yeah, the next section is the economics. I'd run this at a flat oil price of $70 and $2.50 gas. D&C cost, including facilities, $12.2 million. OPEX, there's a variable component of $7.5 per barrel of oil and about $7,500 per month fixed. Assuming a royalty rate of 20%, our 8/8 economic yields a PV10 of $3.1 million per well, an internal rate of return of 21%, and our approximate payout of 40 months.
Have no further questions from Mr. Shivy and ask that Exhibit 6, 7, and 8 be admitted into the record.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Do you have an anticipated timing of development?
Third
They
quarter.
currently aren't on the general schedule, but I would contemplate around Q3 of next year. It may be a little early.
Thank you.
Yes.
That concludes the hearing for case number 31725. Case number 31726. Application of Phoenix Operating LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for Ranch Creek and/or Bennett Creek and/or Lone Butte Bakken pools to establish a stand-up 5120 acre spacing unit described as sections 1 and 12, Township 146 North, Range 99 West, and sections 25 and 36, Township 147 North, Range 99 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 146 North, Range 98 West, and sections 30 and 31, Township 147 North, Range 98 West, Mackenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case has been continued to our June hearings. That concludes our hearing for case number 31726. And that concludes our hearings for the day.